I survived 9 months of deployment overseas, but the only bruises I'd wear came from the man sprawled on my mother's couch. When that door swung open, he raised his fist. I raised the hospital report, the camera pinned to my collar, and a restraining order. I walked in wearing my uniform, and my legal, clean, unforgiving plan for revenge began. My name is Haley Monroe, and I came home to Rust Creek, Montana, at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night that smelled like diesel exhaust and coming snow. The porch light was off. Of course it was. 9 months deployed with Western Defense Command, processing supply chains and temperatures that made your teeth ache, and Mom couldn't even leave the damn light on. I shifted my duffel to my good shoulder, the left one still tender from a loading dock incident 3 weeks back, and pushed through the front door. The living room TV cast everything in that sick blue glow, some reality show bleeding canned laughter into the darkness. Rick sat sprawled across Mom's floral couch, beer bottles lined up on the coffee table like soldiers I'd never have to count again. The smell hit me first: stale Coors, cigarette smoke despite Mom's asthma, and something else, that particular sourness of a drunk who'd been marinating in his own anger since noon. "Look who decided to show up," Rick slurred, not bothering to turn his head. "Playing dress up in your little costume." I set my bag down slowly, controlled. In the field, they taught us to count breaths during incoming fire. 4 in, hold, 4 out. I counted now. "It's a uniform," I said. That's when he lurched up, faster than a drunk should move. His hand caught my jaw, not a punch, but an open palm slap that snapped my head sideways. I stumbled, my bad shoulder cracking against the doorframe. The pain shot white-hot down my arm, but I locked it down the way I'd learned to lock everything down. No tears, no sound except the hitch in my breathing. Mom appeared in the hallway, her robe pulled tight, hair in foam rollers. She took in the scene, Rick swaying on his feet, me pressed against the wall, hand cupping my jaw, and her mouth tightened into that familiar line. "Rick's had a hard day," she said. "You know how he gets when you surprise him." A hard day. I'd spent 9 months eating MREs and sleeping in converted shipping containers, but Rick had a hard day. "It was a misunderstanding," Mom continued, already rewriting history while my face still burned. "You shouldn't have come in so late." My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Tessa. "Don't ruin my promotion party this weekend. Whatever drama you're starting. Stop." She didn't even know I was home, but somehow she knew I'd be the problem. I slipped past Rick. He smelled worse up close, like something rotting under bourbon, and locked myself in the bathroom. The fluorescent bulb hummed, harsh light revealing the red mark across my cheekbone. I pulled out my phone and took 3 photos from different angles. Then I ran cold water, pressed a washcloth to my face, and stared at the woman in the mirror. 27 years old. Staff sergeant. I'd managed logistics for 300 personnel, coordinated supply drops in hostile territory, earned 2 commendations. But in this house, I was still the inconvenient older daughter who needed to stop making trouble, stop needing things, stop existing so loudly. Through the thin door, I heard Mom's soothing voice. "She's just tired from traveling. You know how Haley exaggerates." Rick's response was uglier, peppered with words I'd heard him use about me since I was 14. Mom murmured agreement. I opened the medicine cabinet quietly, looking for aspirin. Instead, I found Tessa's prescription anxiety medication, her retinol creams, her $40 shampoo. The shelf that used to hold my things, just basics I'd left behind, was empty. When I finally emerged, the living room was dark. Rick had passed out on the couch, one arm dangling, knuckles grazing the carpet. Mom stood in the kitchen, making him a sandwich for when he woke up. "There's leftover casserole if you're hungry," she said without looking at me. "Tessa brought it by yesterday. She got promoted to senior account executive. We're so proud." I wasn't hungry. I grabbed my duffel and headed for my old room. The door was locked. "Oh," Mom said, still focused on Rick's sandwich. "We converted that to Rick's office. You can sleep on the pullout in the basement." The basement, where the water heater clanged and the walls grew black mold every spring. Mom, he hit me. She finally looked up, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. Or just annoyance that I'd said it out loud. He didn't hit you, Haley. Don't be dramatic. You've always been too sensitive. 4 in hold, 4 out. I descended into the basement, each step taking me further from the girl who'd left for basic training, desperate to escape this house, and closer to the woman who'd come back with a different kind of war to fight. The basement pull-out squeaked when I sat down, and memory crashed over me like cold water. I was 14 again, watching Mom introduce Rick Dalton at dinner, her eyes bright with something I'd never seen before. Girls, this is Rick. He's going to be staying with us for a while. A while turned into forever, and forever meant everything shifted toward Tessa. It started small. So small I thought I was imagining it. My birthday 15 came and went with a card from the dollar store while Tessa got a surprise party for turning 14. Haley's mature enough to understand, Mom had said. Tessa's still young. She needs more. When I made varsity track, nobody came to meets. When Tessa made JV cheerleading, Rick bought a video camera. Haley's independent? Became Mom's refrain. She doesn't need us hovering. At 16, I got a job at Henderson's Hardware, stocking shelves after school. The first paycheck felt like freedom until Mom sat me down. Family helps family, she said. Rick's between jobs. Just this once. Just this once became every paycheck. For groceries, Mom would say, but I'd see Tessa's new iPhone, her designer backpack, the concert tickets Rick somehow afforded for her and her friends. When I protested, Mom's face would crumple. Why do you hate seeing your sister happy? Why are you so selfish? Cedar Ridge High's guidance counselor pulled me aside senior year. Your SAT scores could get you scholarships, Haley, state schools, maybe even private colleges. But that same week, Rick wrecked his truck driving drunk. Mom came to my room at 2 a.m. We need your college fund for the lawyer. You understand, don't you? You're so strong. I was 17, working doubles at Henderson's, watching my savings disappear into Rick's legal fees while Tessa posted Instagram photos from her spring break trip to Cabo. The Army recruiter found me during lunch, sitting alone in my truck, eating a peanut butter sandwich and calculating how many years before I could escape. Serve your country, he said. Get money for college. See the world. What he really offered was a way out. The night before I left for basic training, Mom threw a party. For Tessa's high school graduation, I sat in the corner, my bus ticket to Fort Benning tucked in my pocket, while relatives congratulated Tessa on getting into Montana State. Rick had co-signed her student loans, of course. The same Rick who couldn't help with my community college application fees because money's tight. Haley's abandoning us for the military, Mom announced to anyone who'd listen, making it sound like betrayal. But Tessa's staying close to home. Family means everything to her. Basic training was hell, but it was my hell. Nobody expected less of me because I was the strong one. Nobody forgot my birthday because someone else needed attention more. For the first time, my achievements were mine. But even from 1,000 miles away, the requests followed. Mom's texts always started the same, I hate to ask, but. They needed money for Rick's medical bills. He never had insurance. For Tessa's sorority dues. For the house repairs that somehow only became urgent when I had deployment pay coming. You don't have expenses over there, Mom would write. Tessa has student loans. Rick's on disability. Just this once. I sent money. Every time. Even when it meant I couldn't afford to fix my own truck during leave. Even when I ate ramen for weeks to rebuild my savings. Because that's what the strong one does. The last time I was home 2 years ago, I'd found my old bedroom converted to Tessa's content creation studio for her lifestyle blog. My trophies, my books, my photos all boxed up in the basement, water damaged and molding. We thought you weren't coming back, Mom had said, like that explained everything. Tessa needed the space for her career. That night, Rick had gotten drunk and shoved me into the kitchen counter, bruising my ribs. Mom watched from the doorway. "You provoke him," she said later, ice cold against my side. "You always have this attitude." I'd left the next morning and hadn't come back. Until now. Sitting on that squeaking pullout, I pulled up my banking app. The deployment pay I'd saved months of hazard duty and separation pay showed $8,743. It was supposed to be over $12,000, but I'd sent money home 3 times when Mom claimed emergencies. A text popped up from Mom. "Since you're home, can you transfer $400 Tessa's car payment is due?" I stared at that text, jaw still throbbing, shoulder aching, surrounded by the mold and dampness of a basement in a house where I'd never had a place. 4 in, hold, 4 out. But this time, the breathing exercise didn't calm me. It clarified everything. They'd taken my childhood, my college fund, my bedroom, my savings. They'd gaslit me into believing I deserved less because I could handle less. That strength meant silence. That family meant being their ATM and punching bag. I opened a new text to Mom and typed "no." Then I started documenting everything. The basement ceiling creaked at 5:37 a.m. Heavy footsteps Rick heading to the kitchen. I'd been awake for an hour, shoulder screaming, planning my exit. But when I grabbed my duffel, I found the zipper slashed, my deployment pay envelope missing from the inside pocket. I knew before I climbed the stairs. Still, seeing Rick at the kitchen table, counting my cash while Mom scrambled eggs, hit like another slap. "That's mine," I said. Rick didn't look up. "Rent. You've been gone 9 months. That's $450 a month you owe us." "I don't live here." "Your stuff does." He gestured vaguely toward the basement. "Storage fees." Mom set a plate in front of him, avoiding my eyes. "Be reasonable. Haley, we've had expenses." I stepped forward and grabbed for the envelope. Rick's hand shot out, catching my injured shoulder in a grip that made my vision white out. He shoved hard, and I went backward into the refrigerator. The handle caught my spine, dropping me to my knees. "Touch my money again," he said, voice low and dangerous. "And I'll teach you about respect." Mom kept scrambling eggs. I pulled myself up, activated the voice recorder on my phone in my pocket, and said clearly, "You just assaulted me and stole my deployment pay." Rick laughed. "Prove it." "I'm taking what's mine, Rick. Try it." This time, when I reached for the money, he punched my shoulder, the injured one, precisely where the joint had been separated. The pain was extraordinary. I hit the floor again, biting through my lip to keep from screaming. "Rick, stop," Mom said mildly, like she was asking him to pass the salt. "You're getting yourself worked up." He stood over me, my money crumpled in his fist. "You want this? You apologize. To me, to your mother, for coming here with your attitude." I tasted blood, counted breaths, and said, "I want you to admit you just hit me. I disciplined a disrespectful brat in my house." "Say it again, louder." He was drunk on power and last night's beer. "I gave you what you deserved, just like I always have when you get mouthy." The recorder caught every word. I stood slowly, cradling my shoulder. "Keep the money. It's evidence now." Rick threw the envelope at Tessa's graduation photo on the wall. Bills scattered across the floor, my months of eating shit food and sleeping in dust storms, decorating Mom's kitchen linoleum. I left them there and walked out. North Fork Community Hospital's emergency room was empty except for a farmer with a broken finger and a teenage mom with a crying baby. The triage nurse took one look at my shoulder and got me straight back. "How did this happen, Doctor?" Martinez asked, gentle fingers probing the swelling. "My stepfather. First, a re-injury to a 3-week-old separation, then a direct punch to the joint." She stopped examining me. "Do you want to file a police report?" "Yes." The x-rays showed soft tissue damage, extensive bruising, possible ligament tears. Dr. Martinez documented everything: the fresh trauma over the healing injury, the bruise patterns on my spine, the split lip. She took photographs, had me sign releases, called the hospital's domestic violence advocate. Sarah, the advocate, sat with me while I gave my statement to Officer Reeves. She had kind eyes and a folder full of resources. Military, she asked, noting my ID. Just got back from deployment. You have JAG access. Use it. And here, she handed me a card. Pro bono lawyer who specializes in domestic violence cases. Former Navy. My phone exploded with texts. Mom, how dare you embarrass us at the hospital? Come home right now. Tessa, Mom's crying thanks to you. My promotion party is tomorrow. Fix this. Mom, Rick's sorry. You know he has PTSD from his construction accident. Tessa, why do you always have to make everything about you? Mom, we're struggling financially and you're trying to put Rick in jail. How could you? I showed them to Sarah. She made copies. Classic pattern, she said. They'll escalate. You have somewhere safe to go. I'll figure it out. Officer Reeves returned with paperwork. Your stepfather claims you attacked him and he defended himself. I have audio. I played the recording. Rick's voice, clear and damning. I gave you what you deserved, just like I always have. Reeves took a copy. This helps. We'll file charges for assault and theft. You'll want a temporary restraining order, too. Back at the house, Reeves insisted on escorting me. Rick was gone. Mom stood in the doorway like a guardian of denial. Get your things and leave, she said. You're not welcome here anymore. I need my belongings from storage. What storage? I pulled up my bank statement on my phone. 3 months of automatic payments to Canyon Storage, drawn from my account. This storage... Mom's face went pale. That's... Rick needed space for his tools. Reeves stepped forward. Ma'am, if items belonging to Sergeant Monroe are in that unit, she has the right to retrieve them. Mom backed away. I went to the basement, grabbed what little remained some clothes, my medals in their cases, a photo of my track team. My old laptop was missing. My grandmother's jewelry box. Gone. Rick sold those, Mom said from the stairs. For Tessa's tuition. Family helps. Family. I looked at her. Really looked at her. 53 years old, choosing a drunk's violence over her daughter's safety. Again. Family doesn't hit family, I said. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't blame the victim. You're not a victim. Haley, you're vindictive. You've always resented Tessa and Rick. I have audio of Rick admitting to hitting me repeatedly over the years. I have medical records. I have theft documentation. What I don't have is a mother. I pushed past her and left. In my truck, I called my unit's JAG office, then the lawyer Sarah recommended, then Canyon Storage. My belongings weren't just stored. They were gone sold, according to the apologetic manager who showed me security footage of Rick loading my boxes into his truck 6 weeks ago. I sat in that storage facility parking lot, shoulder throbbing, and started building my case. The Alder County Sheriff's Department smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. Deputy Walsh looked at my bruises, then at my documentation, then back at me with that particular exhaustion of someone who'd seen this story before. You want to press charges? Yes. Your stepfather says you started the altercation. Your mother confirms his version. I have audio recording of him admitting to assault, medical documentation, security footage of him stealing my belongings from storage. Walsh sighed. Look, these family disputes. Maybe you could work out a mediation counseling. Nobody really wins when families go to court. The cold in my stomach was familiar now, institutional doubt. The reflexive minimization. Deputy Walsh, if a stranger had punched me and stolen $8,000, what would you do? That's different, how he shuffled papers. Your mom and stepfather are established community members. Rick coaches Little League. Your sister works for Mountain Ridge Winery. You've been gone for... how long? Serving my country? Right, but you don't have community ties here anymore. Makes it harder to be believed. Walsh's face reddened. I'll file the report, but think about what you're doing. Your family attacked and robbed me. I left with a case number and the knowledge that Walsh would slow walk everything if I let him. My phone had 32 texts. I sat in my truck and scrolled through Gaslighting's greatest hits. Mom, The whole church knows what you're doing. Pastor Williams is praying for your heart to soften. Tessa, Greg's parents are reconsidering our engagement because of your drama. Mom, Rick returned some of your old things to Goodwill by mistake. Honest error. Drop the charges. Tessa, Mom's blood pressure is dangerously high thanks to you. Unknown number, but clearly Rick. Bitches who snitch get stitches. Mom, your grandmother would be ashamed. That last one almost got me. Grandma Rose, who'd left me her jewelry now pawned for Tessa's tuition. I screenshotted everything and forwarded to the lawyer. Amanda Chin, former Navy JAG, current defender of the domestically terrorized. Amanda called within an hour. Textbook intimidation. Save everything. The threatening text from the unknown number that's criminal. Now, let's talk restraining order. How long will that take? Emergency order. If we file today, maybe 48 hours for the temporary. Full hearing within 2 weeks. Tessa's promotion party is tomorrow night. Don't go. They're expecting me to show up and apologize. Mom's been telling everyone I had a PTSD episode. Haley, no. You need to stay away. What if I went legally protected camera recording, witnesses lined up, sheriff on speed dial? Amanda paused. That's actually not the worst idea. If they violate the temporary order in front of witnesses, Rick won't be able to help himself. You're using yourself as bait. I'm using their arrogance against them. That afternoon, I drove to the bank. The teller, Deb, knew me from high school. Haley heard you were back. How was, oh honey, your face? Rick. Her expression shifted. Again. Even Deb knew. I closed my joint account, removed Mom as beneficiary from my insurance, and discovered 3 credit cards opened in my name. Maxed out. Rick's authorized user signature on all of them. Identity theft, Deb whispered. You need to file, already on it. The credit union's fraud department took my statement. More documentation, more evidence. The pile grew. At the pro bono lawyer's office, Amanda laid out the strategy. 3-pronged attack, criminal charges for assault and theft, civil suit for damages medical bills, stolen property, identity theft, and the restraining order to keep him away while we work. What about Mom Tessa? Accomplices in the theft, potentially, but focus on Rick first. He's the primary aggressor. I signed papers until my hand cramped. Amanda had me write out every incident I could remember, years of discipline that left bruises, money taken for family expenses, belongings that disappeared. This is financial abuse, she said. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, the whole playbook. My phone rang. Tessa. Put it on speaker, Amanda advised. Haley. Tessa's voice was honeyed poison. Look, I know you're upset, but tomorrow's important to me. Just come, apologize to Rick, and we can move forward. Greg's parents will be there. Industry people from the winery. Don't ruin this for me. Tessa, Rick assaulted me. He disciplined you. There's a difference. I'm 27 years old. Then act like it. Stop playing victim. Some of us have real problems. My promotion was paid for with my grandmother's jewelry. Silence. Then, that jewelry was family property. You weren't even here. Stop being selfish. I'll see you tomorrow night. You'll apologize. I'll be there. I hung up. Amanda shook her head. You're walking into a trap. No, I said. They are. That night, I stayed at the Wagon Wheel Motel off Highway 12. $49 a night. Cigarette burns in the comforter. Perfect view of the parking lot where no one could surprise me. I iced my shoulder and reviewed my evidence. Bank statements showing systematic theft, medical records documenting injuries, audio of Rick's confession, security footage of him stealing my belongings, threatening texts, credit fraud documentation. Officer Reeves called at 9:43 p.m. Your stepfather claims you stole $8,000 from him. Says he wants to press charges. Based on what evidence? His word? Your mother's backing him up. Officer Reeves. I have deployment pay stubs showing that money was mine. I know. Just wanted to warn you they're escalating. They were scared. Good. I took another pain pill, carefully documented my injuries with photos, and emailed everything to Amanda, the JAG office, and Sarah at the hospital. Tomorrow, Tessa would have her promotion party at Silver Barn Winery. Rick would be there, confident in his control. Mom would play gracious hostess, and I would walk in wearing my uniform, carrying the weight of evidence that would end their game forever. Amanda's office at 7 a.m. was all business coffee, documents, and strategy. She'd worked through the night, and the conference table showed it 3 distinct piles of warfare disguised as paperwork. Legal prong first, she said, sliding a folder across. Temporary restraining order. Filed. Emergency hearing scheduled for Monday, but we're asking for an immediate ex parte order based on the medical documentation and recording. Should have it by end of business today. The second folder was thicker. Civil suit, assault, battery, conversion of property, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We're asking for medical expenses, the value of stolen property, credit fraud damages, and punitive damages. Roughly $32,000 total. I don't care about the money. You should. Hit him where it hurts. Rick's got a contractor's license. Right. Judgments affect bonding. No bond. No big jobs. The third pile made me smile. Financial forensics. Your credit report shows 3 fraudulent cards, but I pulled property records. Rick's been using your credit and deployment pay for more than Tessa's expenses. He bought 2 trucks, titled in his name, right after your payments cleared. Both purchased within days of your money transfers home. He used my deployment pay for trucks while telling Mom they needed money for groceries. Pattern of fraud. And here's the beautiful part: he's been claiming disability for his back while posting Facebook videos of him loading construction equipment. Fraud on federal disability is a federal crime. I stared at the evidence. How did you get all this overnight? I don't sleep when predators think they're safe. My phone buzzed. Mom, final chance. Apologize tonight or you're dead to us. Amanda read it and smiled. Threats in writing. They really are amateurs. We spent 2 hours rehearsing. What to say, how to stand, where to position myself for the camera. Amanda had a button camera, legal for Montana's single-party consent. Don't antagonize, she instructed. Just state facts. Let him escalate. He will. Rick can't stand being challenged in public. Good. Sheriff Matthews, not Walsh, will be outside. I've briefed him. The moment Rick violates the TRO, Matthews moves. What if the order isn't signed by tonight? Then we rely on him committing assault or threats in front of witnesses. Either way, we get him. By 3 p.m., I had the signed temporary restraining order. Rick Dalton couldn't come within 20 feet of me. Perfect. I stopped at Canyon Storage and met with the manager, Tom, who'd pulled additional footage. Your stepdad sold your stuff to Ace Pawn, he said. Recognized their truck. Might could recover some items. Ace Pawn was a grimy shop near the railroad tracks. The owner, Val, remembered Rick. Brought in military medals, old jewelry, electronics. Said his kid died overseas. Needed funeral money. My stomach turned. I'm the kid. Very much alive. Val went pale. Shit. Sorry. Look, the jewelry's gone. But... He ducked into the back, returned with a box. Nobody wanted old military stuff. My medals, my unit patches. The flag from my first deployment, things worthless to anyone but me. How much to buy them back? Nothing. Take them. And here, Val printed receipts. What he sold, what he got paid, for your lawyers. More evidence. Rick had made $6,000 selling my life. At the motel, I pressed my uniform, every crease sharp, every metal aligned. The uniform that Rick called a costume. The one I'd earned with sweat and sacrifice while he sat on Mom's couch, drinking my deployment pay. Sarah from the hospital called at 5:30 p.m. Heard about tonight. I'll be there. Brought Nurse Rodriguez too. We'll witness everything. You don't have to. Domestic violence thrives in shadows. Time for some sunlight. I arrived at Silver Barn Winery at 7:15 p.m. The parking lot was full. Tessa's big moment. All of Rust Creek's wine and cheese crowd gathered to celebrate her promotion while drinking overpriced Pinot. Sheriff Matthews sat in his cruiser near the entrance. He nodded. The winery glowed with string lights, laughter spilling out through open doors. I could see them through the windows, Mom in her best dress. Tessa holding court, Rick by the bar, already 3 drinks in, judging by his stance. I clipped the camera to my collar, tucked the TRO into my jacket pocket, and checked my phone recording. Then I walked through those doors, spine straight, shoulders back despite the screaming pain. The conversation died in waves. Tessa saw me first, her perfectly painted smile freezing. Mom's hand went to her throat. Rick turned from the bar, beer in hand, face flushing from red to purple. "What the fuck?" "Good evening," I said clearly, voice carrying. "I'm here as requested." Tessa rushed over, hissing. "You wore your uniform to my promotion party. You asked me to come. I came. To apologize. To Rick." I pulled out the TRO, unfolded it slowly. "Actually, Rick needs to maintain 20 feet distance from me, per this temporary restraining order filed today for assault, battery, and theft." The silence was perfect. Greg's parents exchanged glances. Tessa's boss from Mountain Ridge Winery set down his glass. Rick slammed his beer on the bar. "You lying bitch." "Careful," I said. "Threatening me violates the order." He started toward me. Sheriff Matthews appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Dalton," Matthews called. "Step back." Rick stopped at 19 feet. I could see him measuring the distance, calculating. "She's destroying our family." Mom wailed to the crowd. "She has PTSD. She's not well." I pulled out my phone and hit play on the recording. Rick's voice filled the room. "I gave you what you deserved, just like I always have when you get mouthy." Someone gasped. Tessa's boss stepped away from our group. "That's edited," Rick snarled. "Fake." I pulled out the medical reports. 3 weeks ago, separated shoulder from loading dock injury. Yesterday, re-injury from assault. Plus new trauma to spine, facial contusions, split lip, all documented at North Fork Community. You came at me. Security footage from Canyon Storage shows you stealing my belongings 6 weeks ago. Val at Ace Pawn has receipts where you sold my military medals claiming I died overseas. The crowd drew back. Someone whispered, "He said she was dead." The Wagon Wheel Motel became my command center. 4 days until the restraining order hearing. 4 days to build an airtight case that would bury Rick Dalton legally and financially. I spread everything across the bed receipts. Photos, recordings, statements. Each piece alone was damning. Together, they painted a decade of systematic abuse. Amanda called at 6 a.m. The DA's office wants to meet. Rick's lawyer is pushing for dismissal, claiming mutual combat. When 9. Bring everything. The Alder County Courthouse was old brick and older prejudices. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Webb looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Domestic disputes are complicated," he began. "This isn't a dispute. It's assault, theft, and fraud." Webb shuffled papers. "Your stepfather has no record. Coaches youth sports. Your mother supports his version." I played the recording again, then showed the medical records, the storage facility footage, the pawnshop receipts. "If a stranger did this, would you prosecute?" I asked. Webb sighed. "The fraud charges have merit. The assault. Juries don't like family cases." "Then let's make sure the jury sees everything." I spent the afternoon with Amanda preparing for civil court. She'd found more Rick had been running unlicensed contracting jobs, pocketing cash while claiming disability, tax evasion on top of fraud. "The IRS doesn't forgive," Amanda said. "Even if local cops won't act, federal agencies will." That evening, I drove to Ace Pawn with Tom from Canyon Storage. Val had pulled more security footage. Rick had been there 8 times over 6 months, always with my belongings. "Thought he seemed squirrely," Val said. "Kept changing stories. First his kid was dead, then moving abroad, then disowned him." Tom nodded. We got him on camera loading your grandmother's china. Remembered because he dropped a box, shattered half of it, just kicked the pieces aside. Grandma Rose's wedding china. Mom had promised it would be mine. My phone buzzed constantly. I'd blocked Mom and Tessa, but they'd recruited flying monkeys. Aunt Patricia. Family doesn't air dirty laundry. Cousin Steve. You're breaking your mother's heart. Pastor Williams. Forgiveness heals. Vengeance destroys. I documented every message. Witness intimidation. Amanda called it. Sarah from the hospital sent a text. 3 more nurses from ER remember Rick bringing you in when you were 16. Broken wrist. They'll testify if needed. 16. I'd forgotten about that. Rick had twisted my arm for talking back. Claimed I fell off my bike. Nobody questioned it. The memories surfaced now like bodies in water. Every accident. Every misunderstanding. Every time Mom looked away while Rick's hands left marks. Day 2. I hired a forensic accountant. $80 an hour I couldn't afford, but worth it when he found the pattern. Every time you sent money home, Rick made large cash deposits within 3 days, then purchases vehicles, tools, Tessa's vacation packages. Your deployment pay funded their lifestyle while he claimed poverty. Can you prove it? Bank records don't lie. Neither do credit card statements showing Rick at casinos the same nights your mother claimed they needed grocery money. I sat in my truck afterward, shoulder throbbing, and laughed. Actually laughed. They'd been so confident in their con, they hadn't even tried to hide it. Amanda called that night. Rick's lawyer wants to negotiate. No. Hear the offer. Drop criminal charges. They'll pay back $5,000. Sign a no-contact agreement. No. Full prosecution. Full restitution. Permanent restraining order. That's what I told them. Rick responded by calling you a word I won't repeat and threatening to countersue for defamation. Good luck with that. Day 3 brought unexpected allies. Mrs. Henderson from the hardware store called. Haley heard what's happening. I kept your old employment records. Every paycheck you cashed. Rick was waiting in the parking lot. Got security footage if it helps. Coach Ramirez from high school. Always wondered why you quit track senior year. Your mom said family obligations. But now, I remember the bruises. Dr. Patterson. Retired now. I treated your injuries 5 times between ages 14 and 18. Documented everything. Suspected abuse, but your mother always had explanations. I'll testify. The wall of silence was cracking. That afternoon, I visited the credit union. Deb had pulled more records. Your grandmother set up a trust for you, $20,000 for college. Your mom dissolved it as your guardian when you were 17, claimed educational expenses. Tessa's education? The withdrawal slips say that, yes. More fraud, more theft. The numbers kept climbing. I called JAG that evening. Captain Morrison was blunt. We can't prosecute civilians. But this pattern of financial abuse targeting a service member, that's our interest. Document everything. We'll support your civilian case. Day 4. I drove past the house, my mother's house, never home, and saw Rick loading a U-Haul. Running. I called Amanda. He's leaving. Let him. Fleeing before the hearing violates the TRO. Judge won't like that. But Rick wasn't just fleeing. Tom called an hour later. Your stepdad's at the storage unit, cleaning it out. I drove over with Sheriff Matthews. Rick was loading my few remaining boxes, things he'd missed selling into his truck. That's theft in progress, Matthews said. Now I can arrest him. Wait, I said. Let him finish loading. More evidence. We watched Rick stuff my high school yearbooks, photo albums, a box labeled Haley's baby clothes into his truck. Every item documented on Tom's security system. When Rick drove away, Matthews followed. I stayed with Tom, who looked disgusted. Never liked him. Always knew something was off when he'd say you were dead. Matthews called 20 minutes later. Pulled him over. Found your property plus 3 grams of methamphetamine. He's in custody. Meth. The final piece. Rick wasn't just a drunk he was using, dealing, and funding it with my deployment pay. That night, While Rick sat in county lockup, I sat in my motel room and typed everything out. Every incident, every theft, every lie. 20 pages of systematic abuse disguised as family. Tomorrow was the hearing. Rick would be there in orange. Mom would cry. Tessa would play victim, and I would stand up and tell the truth. The whole truth. Silver Barn Winery at 7:45 p.m. looked like a Pinterest dream string lights. Mason jar centerpieces. Exactly the kind of place Tessa would choose to celebrate herself. I sat in my truck, uniform pressed, camera charged, TRO in my chest pocket next to my medals. Sheriff Matthews was already positioned in the parking lot. Sarah and Nurse Rodriguez were inside, texting me updates. Rick's at the bar. 7 drinks in. Your mom's damage controlling. Tessa's telling everyone you had a mental breakdown. I checked my phone recorder one last time and walked in. The crowd was bigger than before, maybe 60 people. Rust Creek's wine-sipping elite here to toast Tessa's success. She stood by a microphone, rehearsing some speech about gratitude and hard work. I kept to the edges, letting people notice me gradually. The whispers started immediately. That's her, the sister. Heard she attacked Rick. PTSD from deployment. Mom spotted me first. Her face went through stages: shock, anger. Then that calculated look she got when managing appearances. She whispered urgently to Tessa, who dropped her champagne glass. The shattering crystal got everyone's attention. You came, Tessa said into the sudden silence. You invited me. Rick turned from the bar, swaying. Even from 25 feet, I could see his pupils pinned despite the dim lighting. High and drunk. Get the fuck out, he slurred. I pulled out the TRO, held it up. 20 feet. Rick, you're currently in violation. This is private property. You're trespassing. Actually, the winery owner, Mr. Chin, stepped forward. This is my property, and she's not trespassing. Rick's face purpled. You gonna let this lying bitch... Careful, I said, loud enough for everyone. Threatening me violates the order. Sheriff Matthews is right outside. Mom rushed over, stopping just short of me. Haley, please, not here. Not at your sister's moment. Her moment funded by my grandmother's trust, by my deployment pay, by my stolen property sold to pawn shops. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Tessa grabbed the microphone. Everyone, my sister is sick. She has PTSD. We've tried to help her. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Rick's voice boomed through the winery's sound system Tessa had left the mic on. I gave you what you deserved, just like I always have when you get mouthy. Then I played the second recording, the one from the kitchen. Touch my money again, and I'll teach you about respect. Greg's parents moved toward the exit. Tessa's boss from Mountain Ridge set down his glass. That's fake, Rick roared, stumbling forward. 18 feet. 15. The medical records aren't fake. I pulled out the photos. Separated shoulder re-injured, facial contusions, spinal trauma. 12 feet. 10. The storage facility footage isn't fake. You're on camera stealing my belongings, claiming I was dead. 8 feet. Matthews appeared in the doorway. The meth in your truck wasn't fake either. That stopped him. The crowd pulled back like Rick was contagious. Yeah, I continued. 3 grams when they arrested you yesterday, plus my stolen property, plus evidence of fraud, tax evasion, and identity theft. Mom wailed. You're destroying us, your own family. I turned to her. You destroyed us when you chose him over me. Every time. You were stronger. You didn't need... I was a child. I needed a mother. Rick lunged. 7 feet. 5 feet. Matthews moved, but Rick was already swinging, his fist aimed at my face. I sidestepped. 9 months of combat training kicked in, and he stumbled past me, crashing into a wine display. Bottles shattered. Red wine splashed across white tablecloths like blood. He just violated the restraining order, Sarah announced. Attempted assault. We all saw it. Matthews had Rick on the ground, cuffs out. Rick Dalton, you're under arrest for violation of a restraining order. attempted assault, public intoxication. She set me up. Rick screamed. The bitch set me up. I stood perfectly still, camera recording everything. Yes, I did. Tessa dropped the microphone. It shrieked feedback before going dead. I pulled out the folder I'd been carrying. Tessa, Mom, these are for you. They didn't move. So I set the papers on the wine-soaked table. Copies of every transfer I made. $12,000 over 4 years. Copies of credit cards opened in my name. $17,000 in fraudulent debt. Copies of my grandmother's trust dissolution. $20,000 for educational expenses that went to Tessa. The crowd was silent except for Rick's cursing as Matthews hauled him up. Bank records showing Rick's deposits matching my transfers. Casino receipts on nights you claimed to need grocery money. Pawn shop records of my belongings sold while claiming I was dead. Mom's legs gave out. She sat heavily in a chair, staring at the papers. And this, I pulled out the final document, is a civil suit. $49,000 in damages. Assault, battery, theft, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. $49,000, Tessa shrieked. We don't have... Should have thought of that before you spent my deployment pay on vacations, before you cashed out my grandmother's gift, before you let him beat me while you planned parties. Greg appeared beside Tessa. We should go. This is my party. Not anymore, Mr. Chin said quietly. I think everyone should leave. Matthews was dragging Rick out. Rick twisted to scream at me. I'll kill you, you hear me? You're dead. That's a terroristic threat, Matthews noted. Additional charges. I looked at Mom one last time. She seemed smaller, older, broken. All I ever wanted, I said, was a mother who protected me. Instead, I got one who offered me up as sacrifice so Tessa could shine and Rick could rage. Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You're stronger. Not anymore. I'm done being strong for you. I walked out through the silent crowd, past the shattered wine display, past Tessa's ruined promotion banner, past everything they'd built on my backs and bruises. In the parking lot, Matthews was putting Rick in the cruiser. Rick's face was twisted with rage, still screaming threats the camera captured perfectly. Sarah and Rodriguez stood by my truck. You okay? Sarah asked. Getting there. As I drove away, I saw them in my mirror, Mom on her knees in the parking lot, Tessa screaming at the sky, Greg's parents rushing to their car, the winery emptying like someone had pulled a drain. My phone exploded with texts, but I didn't check them. I knew what they'd say. Variations of blame, guilt, manipulation. But for the first time in 13 years, their words had no power. I had the truth. I had evidence. I had the law. And I was done being their victim. The courtroom at 9 a.m. Monday morning was smaller than I'd expected. Judge Harrison presided, a woman with steel gray hair and no patience for dramatics. Rick sat in orange, his lawyer beside him. Meth possession, violating the TRO, attempted assault, terroristic threats his charges had multiplied like cancer cells. Mom sat behind him, aged 10 years in 3 days. Tessa was absent. Greg's family had whisked him away for distance from the situation. Let's address the restraining order first, Judge Harrison said, reviewing the documents. Sergeant Monroe, I stood, Amanda beside me. Your Honor, I'm requesting a permanent restraining order based on documented pattern of abuse spanning 13 years. We presented everything, medical records, audio recordings, video footage, financial documents. The judge's expression grew stonier with each piece of evidence. Rick's lawyer tried damage control. My client admits to poor judgment but maintains this was mutual family conflict. Mutual, Judge Harrison interrupted. I have recordings of your client admitting to repeated assault. I have medical documentation of injuries. I have video of him violating the temporary order and attempting assault in front of 60 witnesses. He was intoxicated and high on methamphetamine, according to the arrest report. Rick exploded. She's lying. She abandoned the family and came back to destroy us. Judge Harrison's gavel cracked. "Mr. Dalton, you're already facing criminal charges. Don't add contempt." The permanent order was granted. 2 years. No contact. Criminal penalties for violation. The civil hearing came next week. Rick didn't show he was in county lockup, unable to make bail. His lawyer appeared to negotiate. "My client offers $10,000 in restitution." Amanda laughed. "Documented theft and fraud totaling $49,000, plus ongoing medical expenses, plus credit repair costs." Judge Harrison reviewed our evidence. Bank records, pawn receipts, credit reports, the forensic accountant's analysis. Judgment for the plaintiff. $49,000 plus medical costs, subject to garnishment from any income, including disability payments obtained fraudulently. Rick's disability fraud case would be federal. 5 to 10 years potential sentence. Outside the courthouse, Mom waited by my truck. She looked hollow, excavated. "I need you to understand," she started. "No, you need to understand. You chose him. Every time he hurt me, you chose him. When he stole my future, you helped. When he sold Grandma's things, you lied. You were my mother. You were supposed to protect me. I was scared. So was I. I was 14, then 15, then 16, then 17. Each year worse than the last, and you watched it happen. Tessa needed a mother who didn't sacrifice one daughter for the other's comfort. She learned from you that my pain was acceptable currency for her happiness." Mom pulled out an envelope. "This is from Tessa." I didn't take it. "Tell her to use the money she would have spent on vacations to pay Rick's lawyer. She'll need it when the IRS investigates the fraudulent trust dissolution." "You're really going to destroy your own family. You destroyed our family the day you let Rick hit me and called it discipline. I'm just documenting the demolition." I drove away, leaving her standing in the courthouse parking lot. 3 weeks later, the criminal trial. Rick pled guilty to avoid maximum sentences. 2 years for assault and violating the restraining order. 3 years federal for disability fraud. 18 months for possession. Sentences to run concurrently. 4 years total. As they led him away, he turned to scream at me. No words, just rage. Mom sobbed. Tessa, who'd finally appeared, posted on Instagram about family betrayal and victim mentality. The trolling started immediately. Their flying monkeys attacked on social media, calling me vindictive, cruel, mentally ill. I documented everything, sent it to Amanda for harassment charges if needed, but unexpected support came too. 3 other women reached out: Rick's ex-girlfriend, a former neighbor, a cousin, all with similar stories. We'd been isolated in our abuse, but now the pattern was clear. 2 months later, I got a check. The house had been sold to pay the civil judgment. Mom moved in with Tessa, who'd lost her promotion after the winery incident became public. Greg had ended their engagement. Mom sent one last letter. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything." I wasn't happy, but I was free. 6 months later, Rick wrote from prison, not to apologize, to threaten what he'd do when released. I forwarded it to the prosecutor. Additional charges. Another year added. I used the settlement money to finish college, the education stolen from me at 17. Psychology major, focusing on family trauma and financial abuse. The VA covered therapy for both combat PTSD and complex family trauma. Dr. Kim, my therapist, helped me understand you didn't destroy your family. You revealed what was already broken. You stopped accepting abuse as love. 1 year later, I graduated summa cum laude. Nobody from my family came, but Sarah was there. Amanda, Captain Morrison, Mrs. Henderson, Coach Ramirez, the village that rose when my family fell. I work now as a victim advocate, specializing in military families experiencing domestic abuse. Every time I help someone document their injuries, file their paperwork, stand up in court, I heal a little more. Sometimes I Google them. Mom still posts about being a victim of her mentally ill daughter. Tessa became a lifestyle blogger focusing on surviving family trauma, meaning my betrayal. not Rick's abuse. Rick serves his time, scheduled for release in 3 years with lifetime restraining order intact. But mostly, I don't think about them. I think about the morning I drove out of Rust Creek for the last time. Windows down despite the cold, breathing air that didn't smell like beer and violence. My shoulder still aches sometimes, phantom pain from old wounds. But I'm not the ghost anymore. They are haunting a past where their victims stayed silent, their crimes stayed hidden, their comfort came at someone else's cost. That victim is dead. She died the night Rick raised his fist and I raised evidence. I killed her with truth, buried her with legal documents, and built something better on her grave, a survivor who refuses to be strong in silence. A woman who knows the difference between family and abuse. Someone who walked into that winery wearing her uniform not as costume, but as armor earned through service, worn with pride, representing strength that doesn't require suffering. My name is Haley Monroe, and I won. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives matter, and together we can break the silence around family abuse and find strength in truth.